absolutely my pleasure to be here today with you all. I will give you just a little bit of background since this is my first time here in this forum. So, again, my name is Nancy Rosedale with Bank of America, and I'm currently the Business Community Officer in Greater Boston. And there are 11 others just like me in large metropolis areas throughout the country. And our primary job is to foster relationships, to encourage existing aspiring business owners and founders, primarily women and people in diverse multicultural areas, to help them access capital. We know that there's a large disparity between women and people of color and minorities accessing capital. So what we're going to talk about today is pointing you to a number of different resources and tools and platforms that can aid you to garnish the education, the awareness, get access to tools that you may not have ever known existed. So we're going to have a lot of fun. And oh, by the way, I've been in credit and lending. I would say, I'll take my glasses off so you can see my wrinkles. I think it's 32 years that I've been in credit and lending. So quite a long time. So I'm hoping that we're going to have a fun, informational session today, and then we'll do some live Q&A towards the end. So thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for having us. We also want to encourage all of you to use the chat feature. We're going to run some quizzes and polls today just to get feedback from you, but please feel free to utilize the chat to introduce yourself, talks amongst yourselves. We want this to be as interactive as possible. So Nancy, before we get into talking about Bank of America's commitment to small businesses, we really want to start talking about the state of small business, right? Like where we're at. And there are many people on this call from all over the country. We'll share, again, this recording after this call, so there'll be people, again, from all over the country who will see this. But our niche right now, and we're kind of, the context we'll talk about a little bit is Massachusetts. Again, if you're not from Massachusetts, don't drop off. We're still here for you. But I would love to talk about the state of small business in Massachusetts, because you shared some stats with me that was just mind-blowing. I never knew this information. I would love to talk about that. Like, where are we right now, especially for BIPOC?
Sure. I think that's a great place to start. Thank you for that. I'm going to actually do it on a larger scale first, and then we'll drill
Perfect.
down to Massachusetts, because I realize that we have a large audience today, and not everyone's in Boston like us.
Okay, yeah.
So when you think about overall, when you think about small business, so we usually say small business is revenue size around 5 to 10 million. The federal government says small business is 20 million and below. So for purposes of today, we'll think of small business as under 10 million in revenue. There are 33 million small businesses across the entire country. So 33 million, of whom 40% are women owned. So we're catching up to the guys. But here's the bad news. Only 30% are minority owned. And that's why we're here today, to try to bridge that gap and to change that narrative. Now, there is some good news on the horizon as well. The gap is starting to shrink. So when we look at people of color, brown and black, BIPOC communities, we can say that over the last 3 years, the gap is starting to shrink, more so than it has in any other 3-year period. And the other interesting statistic that I came up with was there are 4 states around the country with the highest minority small business ownership. And I don't think you guys would guess me if we opened a poll. So I'm just going to throw these out there, and you can put anything in the chat, use your emojis and so forth. The number one state in the United States where we have 61% of small businesses owned by minorities is Hawaii. That was shocking to me. Second is California. Third is Texas. And then fourth is New Mexico. And then when we look at the landscape here in Greater Boston, in this beautiful state of Massachusetts, there are 700,000 small business owners, of whom only 62,000 are minority owned. And that's a huge, huge disparity. And that is what I have dedicated my career towards changing. And that's why it's such a pleasure to be here today, so we can start that conversation.
Thank you so much. Like when you told me that, my head, like you saw how I was. I was like, come again? Excuse me? And I think, and you know, if you can agree or can resonate with this on the call, because there are many people on the call here who also work with small businesses. I think sometimes those of us who work in like the BIPOC community, we feel the abundance because that's all who we work with. Like we don't work with anyone else but them. So we feel like there's an abundance, but to hear that is like I was literally on the floor and I was like, can we like we need to do a webinar and talk about this.
You did.
Because we absolutely need to change that. We can change that. Over the past few weeks, I've been chronicling and documenting a lot of BIPOC founders who are closing their businesses. Like business closures at an all-time high right now, and
Mhm.
it's really sad to see. And so, you know, we really want to create something, and I think this is a a good like first start into a partnership to really help businesses grow and scale and sustain their businesses. You can't grow and scale if you're growing scale if you're on the brink of closure, right? So I think a lot of us are just in the sustainability phase right now, and that's okay. And you know, again, we really appreciate you. Also, I want to let anyone know during this call, you are more than welcome to come off of camera, come off of mute, and actually ask questions if anything resonates with you or want to add to anything. You're more than welcome to do that too. But I want to, just for the sake of time, because we only have about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and then we'll go into our Q&A. I want to just quickly hop into talking about Bank of America's commitment to small businesses. And Nancy will also go into some of the small business programs that they have. There's a new one that hasn't really been released yet that we're going to talk about today, and I'm really excited for that. Because as you all know, I'm obsessed with making sure that small business owners get access to all the resources that they possibly can. I don't want anyone to miss anything. And that's how we level the playing field and ensure that BIPOC founders have all the tools and resources that they need.
I think that's why we're here today too, because we have that in common. And for those of you who might not know, we met, what was it, 3 or 4 weeks ago? Maybe a
Yeah.
month ago or so at
Yep.
an event where we were both there. You were actually a judge, and I was just a supporter of brown and black teens during a pitch contest. And it was flooring. It was an extraordinary event. I'm so grateful that we had that time to connect. And one thing that you just said a moment ago is something I wanted to kind of piggyback on before we go into some of the resources. You're absolutely right about businesses starting to close and fold up, unfortunately.
Mhm.
And there are a couple reasons as to why businesses fail. And one is lack of planning. So I just want to make sure whether you're an existing business owner or you are an aspiring business owner or founder, make sure that you have a solid board of directors. Now, for those of you who work in the not-for-profit space, I'm not talking about an official board of directors. I'm speaking really unofficially. A board of directors for a small business means you have a fantastic CPA who understands the vertical that you're in your industry. They're going to protect you. They're going to help you set up the right sort of entity. You're going to work with also a business attorney who's going to give you that same guidance and protect you. You're going to form likely an entity. So you have a corporate shield to protect you from the IRS and so forth. And then you always need a banker on your small business board of directors team. You want to make sure that you have an open dialogue, you have an advocate, someone who can help you get through the red tape, whether you're working with a small community bank or an S&L, savings and loan, or a large bank like Bank of America. And then the last person you want on your team is an insurance broker. So those are the four people that we believe you should have on your board of directors team so that you're a good planner. Cash flow is another reason 82% of small businesses fail. So we're going to talk a little bit about that later. Financial management, and the biggest one, you guessed it, is access to capital. So we're going to go into a couple of resources that kind of speak to what is Bank of America and what is this startup ecosystem doing to support founders and startups. So, okay, if I share my screen?
Yes, ma'am. You can go right ahead.
Alrighty.
I believe that
Alrighty.
you have
So
access.
I hope so. So we've had a little technical issue this afternoon, so bear with me, but I'm going to do my best here. The first thing I want to talk through is some of the resources that everyone on this call has access to once you are once you've decided essentially that you would like to take your business idea to market. Okay. So in a moment, you will see my access to capital directory that I'm really, really proud of. And essentially what this does is it serves kind of as almost like the yellow pages from like many, many years ago. So if you're old enough to remember when the yellow pages would appear on your doorstep, and it was something that you went to anytime you needed, a plumber or a lawyer or what have you. Nowadays, of course, everything is electronic. Bear with me 1 second while I share my screen. Sorry about this, guys. All right, so you should be seeing my screen. Just let me know, Buki, when you can see it.
Okay, I'll let you know. I don't see it just yet.
I know. All right, here we go, finally. Okay, so just give me a heads up once you actually can see.
Yep,
and we'll take it from there. All right, so this is the new yellow pages. So let's say that you have been in business for a year and you have your board of directors, you have your business model, and you realize you don't necessarily have, the right cash flow. You are struggling. You've already borrowed money from your family, from your friends, and you need some capital to kind of level up and take your business to the next stage. So this access to capital is available at bankofamerica.com. We have what's called a Center for Business Empowerment, which is sort of like our robust portal for all things small business. And you can find this Yellow Pages version right online. So if we're in Boston, all you're going to do is just type in Boston. And let's say we need under $100,000. You just hit the search button. When it works. Oh my goodness, I'm having a tech failure now. Oh, here we go. Okay. So there are a number of different partnerships and organizations that you could potentially qualify for to access funds. So the main one that a lot of startups talk about is CDFIs. It stands for Community Development Financial Institution. So depending upon where you live and depending upon your credit profile, your business model, the CDFI could step in and bridge that gap for when you are not necessarily ready to obtain bank funds, but you need that loan today. So what that means is working with a CDFI, they're going to provide coaching. They're going to help you with a business plan. They're going to help you go from A to Z and potentially provide you with access to capital that maybe you'll pay on, maybe you'll pay a loan for a year, year and a half. And before you know it, you're ready to actually work with a large institution or a commercial bank. Most banks need about 2 years in business before they'll lend. But in this example, our client or our borrower was only in business for a year. So a CDFI is a great resource. You could also take advantage of venture capital funds. There are different grants. There's crowdfunding, which we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes. And this is available all around the country. So let's say you are in Dallas, Texas, and you need the same type of funds. You need $100,000, to move your business along. Of course, all of these resources are localized. So they're all for the Dallas, Texas market, for example. So that's one fantastic resource. And the good thing is we keep adding to this. So it's not something that has an expiration date or is going to go away. These are relationships that we've had for more than 30 years in some cases. And Bank of America, I believe we've put $1.6 billion into the CDFIs. So we're the largest investor. We also have other programs that you can take advantage of. And again, I say this all the time, and you may have heard this from me if you worked with me in the past. It's kind of like that old analogy where we talk about, like, if a tree falls in the woods and no one hears it till it really fall. So if Bank of America in the founder startup community has built this tremendous ecosystem to help entrepreneurs and startups, but nobody knows about it, are we really helping people? So that is the genesis of my job. That's why I have a job, because we want to draw people closer to all these amazing resources. The next resource that I want to point out, if my computer allows me to, is crowdfunding. So I don't know if you know what crowdfunding is, but crowdfunding is really the same thing that you've heard of on the consumer side. I'm sure that you have at one time or another been a part of raising funds for a cause. You could even look at GoFundMe as sort of like a crowdfunding venture. We do the same thing on the business side of the house. And on the business side of the house, we work with an organization that we've partnered with called Kiva, Kiva. And I am trying to share my screen, so I do apologize. But in a moment, you will see this Kiva come on your screen. It'll just say the Bank of America Loan Fund for Women Entrepreneurs.
Yeah, we see it. It's here.
And excellent. And this is a little bit newer to us, but this one really hits home. This one is so heartfelt for me. I actually adopted a borrower. So if you're a small business owner and you know you need capital, and for whatever reason, you haven't been able to raise funds through any other means, you can actually come to this website, enter your application. You would select apply for a loan. And then people all around the country and even the globe, in many cases, would contribute to your cause. So the requirement's really simple. You just have to be 18 years old and you have to have a business plan in place. Crowdfunding oftentimes provides 0% interest, or in other cases, it's very, very low interest. So there are some situations where you don't have to pay the loan back at all. This particular program, like I said, is heartfelt because it takes away credit scoring. It takes away looking at financials, and it's all based on just character and willingness to put yourself out there. So I actually wanted to share with you the young lady that I'm helping. Her name is Marcelina, and she's from Uganda. And she has 5 children. Such an amazing story. And I believe she only needs less than $500 in the next 25 days to actually raise enough funds to achieve her goal. So this is someone that I would have never met, of course. She's all across the globe. She's a refugee. She's been through a lot. And it means so much to me to be able to contribute online. I can select the dollar amount, and then Bank of America matches dollar for dollar. So that's who I'm supporting. But back to you all, founders and entrepreneurs, you could also take part in this amazing program. So I've just selected the Apply Now button, and each of you can get started on this immediately. It's 0% interest. It will save your work. So if you don't have all the information that they're asking for at your fingertips, it will save your application. And you can get up to $15,000 at 0%. So I know that that could help a lot of businesses. And I'm just going to pause there for a moment because that was a lot of information, just to see if there are any questions, any feedback, anything at all, because this is something that not a lot of people know about.
Absolutely. We have
Yes.
in the chat. Oh, yes, go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for sharing this. Especially the Black, I mean, not the, I wrote it down. The fund for women entrepreneurs. What are the qualifications? You mentioned the application, but do you mind just going over what the qualifications are for this particular fund for the up to $15,000?
This one's really, really simple. So we don't want to overthink it. You have to be 18 years old. You have some kind of a business plan. So you have to be, you can't be in ideation phase. You have to actually have a business plan and be in business for either up to 5 years. No credit score required. You don't have to ever have filed a business tax return. It's all based really on just character and really just your vision. And that's what I love most about this crowdfunding opportunity. Most CDFIs and most organizations, they're going to want to look at your credit. You're going to have to tell a story, and you're going to have to provide financials and projections, but not with this program. So again, most times it's 0% interest. And if you do have to pay it back, it's generally very, very low, under market. So the only other criteria that I can think of is, even though we're not looking at credit scores, if you've had a foreclosure or a bankruptcy or any recent open liens, you do have to explain those, particularly if they're recent. But outside of that, there are no credit criteria at all. Does that help?
Yes, thank you so
All right.
much.
You are welcome. I hope you take advantage of that program. It's really incredible. We've already raised over $1 billion. Any other questions or feedback on Kiva?
Did you just say $1 billion or $1 million?
But 1 billion.
It's insane.
It actually says it right at the bottom of the screen that we've raised $1 billion.
Oh, yeah.
So it's pretty incredible. Frankly, before I took this role, I had not heard of it. It is relatively new. So I encourage all of you to look into it while funds are available.
Yeah, I mean, either. I mean, again, I believe that I'm in the funding world, right? And in the resource world, but you shared so much stuff with me that I didn't know, that I'm like, we need to make a whole webinar out of this, because like I had no idea this existed. Someone asked, can you apply as a sole proprietor?
Yes, you can. So there's this common, I think, misconception that people think that you need to be an LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp to be a legitimate business, but it's perfectly legal and it's okay to be a sole proprietor and to be very successful. Of course, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a CPA. I don't like to give, advice in those verticals, but the only difference really is when you're a sole proprietor, your income flows through your personal tax returns, and you don't have that corporate shield, as they say, when you're incorporated. So that would be a disadvantage, but a sole proprietor is eligible for all of the programs that I'm going to talk about today. Great question. Any other questions? I have a lot of other good stuff for you ladies, so I'll keep it moving. And I'm a very casual presenter, so raise your hand or shout it out. And if you have any questions at all, or you want me to back up and clarify something. All right, so I'm going to go to my favorite part of today. This is our Mercedes-Benz version, in my opinion, of what we're going to talk about. So by a show of hands, and Buki, maybe you can look in the chat since I can't see it.
I got you.
How many women business owners or aspiring business owners with us today would love to get an Ivy League certification at no charge? You would come out of a program, 6-week workshop, with an actual business certificate from an Ivy League school. Anybody? I know I would. Well,
speak up now.
Speak up now.
Absolutely would. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yep.
So check this out. So 50,000 women have gone through this program. So Bank of America partners with Cornell University, and it is a 6-week workshop program. And before anyone asks, we're going to go right to the eligibility, because I know that question's coming, and duly so. There really are no requirements, except, again, that you have a business plan in mind. You're either in the ideation stage or you've been in business for a year or so, and maybe you're really, really good at your craft. Maybe you own a florist, like this young lady on the screen, or maybe you're an attorney, but you're having trouble marketing yourself or branding yourself, or you don't really know how to run a business. A 6-week course like this could really, really impact your business. So what you would learn in the 6-week workshop is how to start, grow, and scale a business. And the curriculum is pretty intense. So we always want to meet with applicants before the program actually starts. We want to make sure, like, do you have time for the program? You're not going to be you're not going to be asked rather to do any dissertations or any large papers, but there is a lot of homework and there is some collaboration amongst the team and so forth. And when you're done, you're going to have learned how to create your venture. So really focusing on the foundation, building your business plan. You're going to have a mentor who's going to work with you, and you're really going to need to be able to pitch your product as to what problem are you solving in the world? What is it that you're bringing to market and why? And then number two, we're going to teach you how to fund your venture. So it's not always easy to kind of come up with a number. How much money, how much capital do I really need to grow my business and sustain it? The last thing you want to do is apply for a loan that's only going to carry you for 4 or 5 months. And then you realize month 11, month 12, it wasn't enough. And you're not in a place where you're going to succeed. And, you're really scratching your head. So we really do work a lot with you in the beginning to make sure that we're advancing enough capital and getting you to work with mentors, C-level executives, successful women who have grown and scaled businesses in the past. And then we're going to also teach you in week 3, what does leadership really look like? It's one thing to be a founder and to be really good at what you do. It's another thing to be able to negotiate with suppliers and to build a team and to know, who to hire and why, how to implement, HR handbooks and so forth. These are sometimes things that we just don't learn in business classes or in college or what have you. So that's a really important class. And then week 5 is all about digital marketing and also developing your product. So how can we help you take your product to market digitally? How can we help you analyze your data that is specific to your business? And then how can we also capitalize on the unique strengths that you as a woman bring to the table? That's a really good class. Class 5 can be a little bit dry, but it's so important. Again, it's basically a legal perspective that they're providing for you. You want to make sure that you create the right legal structure. And again, as we said 5 minutes ago, if a sole proprietorship is right for you, then you'll have that vote of confidence. You'll have that confirmation during week 5. Conversely, if you need to file as an S corporation, you'll understand the why behind it. And you'll be explained that you need to be on payroll and so forth. And we'll really just provide some of the pitfalls that other companies have fallen prey to. And we'll give you all of the personalized, I would say, planning and protection that you need to succeed. And then the last class is my favorite. It's all about negotiation and being persuasive as a founder and an entrepreneur. And if any of you have ever pitched your business, either during a pitch contest or a classroom, it definitely takes some practice. We teach you how to have that executive presence, that gravitas, how to share your story in a compelling fashion. So you're not just telling your story, but you're selling your story. So again, very, very intense 6 weeks program. That was a lot of information. So again, I'm going to pause here, see what questions there are out there, and then we can continue. But that was a lot of information.
Is this program offered in other languages?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So currently it's offered in English and Spanish. And I think I mentioned a moment ago, we've actually put 50,000 women through this program. There's high demand. And to that end, if you click the button at the bottom of the page where it says contact information, you're going to see something that populates that says, it usually says that the English version right now has a waiting list. I still encourage you to get on that waiting list because I, as well as a number of my colleagues, are responsible for doing some I would say some training prior to the Cornell University program starting, just to kind of go through a little bit about what we talked about, to make sure that you have the bandwidth, make sure it's the right time in your life to do it, make sure that you understand like what you're going to be learning and so forth. The Spanish version does not have a waiting list. And I was asked yesterday as to whether or not we're going to deliver in any other languages. And the short answer is I don't know, but I did escalate that to the team. So I will know shortly. And I know that this is a priority for the bank. So the waiting list is temporary. We will have more classes to help a lot of additional women very, very soon.
Okay, so what you're telling us is, right? I think you just gave us a little key. If people want to basically do this program soon, they can sign up for the Spanish one and take the Spanish one. Does that sound correct or?
Well, you read between the lines, my friend.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
So I think I shared that with you one time. So we
Yeah.
we actually have some entrepreneurs with whom we work who do not speak Spanish at all. And they actually enrolled in the Spanish version and they said that they were fine because a lot of the class is in English. I'm not going to recommend anyone do that because I personally haven't sat through the class, but I do know others who've gone through it and said it was a blast and they still learned a great deal. So thank you for the reminder there. All right. Any other questions in the chat since I can't see it?
Well, I have a question if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, and as far as the class, what is the average amount of time that we would have to attend,
Like
or
invest.
how do we gauge if we are available or have the time to do the class?
Sure. So when you hit that registration button, you're going to sit through probably a 30 or 45-minute class with me or with some of my colleagues, and we're going to take you through exactly what that investment of time looks like. But I can tell you it's less than I would say 3 hours a week. It's not like, getting a PhD or having to do a dissertation or anything like that. A lot of it is self-study based on your own timeline. There are a lot of resources that you can actually, sometimes I'm cleaning my house and I've got my AirPods in and I'm listening to one of these classes, believe it or not. So you don't always have to be like sitting behind your computer or, taking time away from the kids or your partner, et cetera. I would say it's like real life situations for real life students like us.
Okay, no, sounds awesome. I didn't know if it was like having to a lot like 15, 20 hours per week until it was
No.
over. So that's why I was trying to, get try to figure
Yeah.
out. Okay,
No,
so
I think
I
that's
can definitely do that.
good. We would
Okay,
love
sounds
to have
good.
you. That's a fair question, by the way.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. And I should also mention that it is industry agnostic. So it doesn't matter what industry you're in, if you're in food services, you're in retail, you're in legal. The course itself is taught for-profit businesses. If you are learning how to navigate the not-for-profit world, you can still take the classes, but just realize that all of the information and the learnings are geared towards the for-profit world. So I did want to point that out as well. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Because otherwise I'll just keep this moving.
Yeah, you can keep it going.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Really
yeah,
quickly,
go
I
ahead.
just. Oh,
No, go ahead,
Go
please.
right ahead.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, I was gonna raise my hand. I just actually registered for one of the seminars for the Cornell Women's Institute. It did ask for our employer. Quick question: by employer, do they mean our business or our actual like employer?
So it should refer to your business. It's funny that they called it like your employer.
Okay.
The only thing I can think of though is if it was on the registration screen, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, they may be asking for if you have a W-2, like do you work for a
Right.
large corporation? Because some organizations, particularly Bank of America, we're sponsoring it for you, so you're not paying. So I'm wondering if that question is asking you, do you work for a large corporation? And is there some
Mhm.
sponsorship available?
Oh, okay. Okay. I wasn't
Okay.
sure. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. All right. So, what do we do in the meantime? So, those of you who are thinking, like, that's a great program, I'd love to start that immediately. Too bad there's a waiting list. I say add your name to that waiting list because you're going to see that the time is going to go by really quickly because we're aware of the issue and we're adding classes. In the meantime, I would suggest checking out Bank of America's partnership with Tory Burch Foundation. So we all know Tory Burch. We love her bags. We love her shoes. But she's also a major powerhouse for women entrepreneurs. So we partnered with her foundation. And something that I was mentioning earlier about cleaning my house and sort of like driving, when I'm driving, I have an hour drive. I love to just listen to some of these webinars so I can constantly teach myself, just like you all. I'm a lifetime student. I'm intellectually curious. There's always something to learn. So the reason I love these classes is because you can take them when you're available. Many of them are pre-recorded. Some of them are live. So you have access to, in most cases, a C-level executive who can spend time with you. You can put questions in the chat. You can ask specific questions about your business or something that you're curious about. Like, what an amazing resource. This stuff was not available when I was opening my businesses 20 years ago and when I was in college. So I just think this is so cool that we can offer this. So you can see here down below, AI is a hot topic that I know very little about. So I could take 59 minutes. It says unlocking AI's business potential. It's a pre-recorded video. And in 1 hour, I could at least have that baseline understanding of what AI is and its impact in the entrepreneurship world or in the banking world. Same thing about developing strategies and branding, cash flow, how to understand and read a profit and loss statement. There's so much that you can do. And, it's all about you just kind of taking the initiative. But this is just a list, if you will, of the countless videos and various topics that are at your fingertips that you can take advantage of. You can even filter. So if you're interested in learning more about budgeting, you can just select budgeting and estimation, hit apply, and then all the talks, they're kind of like TED Talks, all the talks that come up about budgeting will be here accessible to you at your fingertips. So just a lot of incredible information. She also has different programs, like this really cool Women of Color grant program. This is something that's been out there for a while. And again, a lot of people just don't know about it. So you may not have ever, taken advantage of it or applied. But if you are a benefactor of this program, and there are 75 women who are actually selected, you could benefit from $10,000 to $20,000 through the Fearless Fund. So the criteria is on the screen. It's fairly simple. You have to be an owner. At least 51% of the business has to be owned by a woman of color, a for-profit business in business 1 to 5 years, formed in the United States. And it does have to be generating revenue. It's not mandatory, but it's preferred that you have at least $100,000 in reported income on a tax return. So here's just one more resource that I'm betting that a lot of you didn't know about. And the cool thing is you can look at all of the winners from 2023, and maybe some of these stories resonate with you. Maybe you read them and say, that's me. I live in Chicago, but that's me, or that's the version, of myself that I hope to be next year. Really, really innovative rather, cool business models. And I think there's room for each of you on this screen. So I want to encourage you all today to definitely bookmark this page as well. Tory Burch Foundation, pair that up with the Cornell University program, access to capital, and all of the other resources that we talk through today.
Thank you so
So,
much, Nancy. I just want to quickly say I was just smiling looking through the scroll through of women's faces. Some of the people that I just seen are for all things digital community members. So if you do
oh,
plan on
cool.
applying, yeah, so if you do plan on applying to this and would like further information or would like to do a one-on-one with someone who went through the program, please let us know. There is at least one person, just a side note, for those who are part of our community, those who will be joining our community after this call, there is at least one person in our community that has pretty much virtually won every grant that we like basically ever post, unless it's a brand new grant that just came out. We always find at least one person that has won it. And so if there's any grants you're looking at and want, maybe it's like inside information or want help with your application, please feel free to reach out. Like, don't keep it to yourself, because there's typically at least one person that has won it that is willing to talk and help someone else get the grant as well.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. I don't have any emojis. I can't write in the chat, but that
No
is
problem.
amazing. Congratulations on that. You should be very, very proud.
Yes, we are. We're always excited and happy when someone wins a grant. When someone in our community wins a grant, like I feel like I want a grant too. Like I literally go to sleep so good at night. Like, yeah, somebody just won. We won, right? So it's great. So again, if you're looking at any grants or need help with funding, please feel free to reach out to us. Even when you're applying to funding, applying to opportunities like Bank of America's or Cornell program, please feel free to reach out. We're happy to look over that for you too.
Excellent. Excellent. Why don't we do some Q&A? Let's see if there are any questions out there. There's nothing off limits. We're just happy to help and provide any guidance that we can. So what questions do you have?
Yes, and your questions don't also have to just be about what we talked about today. It could be anything regarding funding.
Okay.
You have questions. Someone from Rockstar Dance Fitness says, I would love to win a grant. I never won any grants for my business in 11 years. Like, thank you for telling us that. And, like, definitely reach out to me directly. Nancy is available for one-on-ones. Like, talk to us. Like, what is going on that you haven't won, and how can we help you? What are different funding resources that you can take advantage of that you probably don't know of? So definitely let us know. Danielle, yep.
Yes, I have a question. Thank you so much for this. So, what if you have multiple businesses? I would love to know, is there a way where let's say you've had a business for about 7 years, you've made money, you can prove that you've, made, a decent amount of money over the years. But let's say you want to start a new business, like let's say you want to open a hookah lounge, for example.
Okay.
Is there a way to use and show the growth of and funding and financing through the first business to use to maybe get financing to start or launch that second business? How does that work, and what would be your advice to the best way to kind of do that?
Okay, I'll try to take that one. Brilliant question, by the way. No one's ever asked it before, but I really like where you're coming from. So I would say there's a couple of different ways that we can look at that. I know in the bank world, if we're talking Bank of America, traditional lenders, they would say, congratulations on the success that you've had with the other businesses, but we're not going to be able to use that success to guarantee or serve as a foundation for startup funds on your new business.
Mm-hmm.
If it has a different tax identification number, it's an entirely different business. But remember that slide that I put up before where it showed access to capital, and I joked that it was like the large yellow pages? I would probably start there. There are CDFIs where you live locally who will help you with startup funding. And it's going to all come down to probably the same thing that you did with the other businesses: cash flow projections, business plan. I would share with them the success that you've had with the other businesses, because that does speak to your character, your track record, and so forth. So I do think that you would have to take an alternative lending route first. There is one exception that I've seen over the years in my 30 plus years of lending. Sometimes, depending upon the amount of success and the amount of revenue generated with, we'll call it business A and business B that you've had in the past, if they're still in existence, still filing tax returns, if there's enough net income to support the debt that those businesses have currently, and they can support a new business, then there are some lenders traditionally who will entertain that. But it would have, you would have to show quite a large sum of net income to be able to support your existing and then new debt.
Okay.
I would love to talk through that one-on-one with you so I can get more details.
Yeah.
I really, that's that. Congratulations, by the way, on your success. Not
Thank
easy
you.
to do at all. If you grab your cell phone and you just scan the QR code in red where it says add me to your contacts, that will provide you with all my contact information. And really, it goes for everyone on this call. And I know we all feel similarly. We want to be an environment where we're sharing and helping others and collaborating. So I make myself available every time I do a workshop. I will do a one-on-one with anyone who calls me, even if it's just to review a business plan and to say, I'm in your corner. I love it. Or have you thought about this or that? I can be your cheerleader. I can play devil's advocate. I can basically point you in the right direction of whether or not you're ready for bank funding, or maybe there's another alternative that you're better suited for, whether it's a grant, whether it's the crowdfunding through Kiva, whether it's education. So use me as a resource where you can.
Thank you so much, Nancy, for being a resource for us. We really appreciate you. Please feel free to, again, add your questions in the chat. I definitely have a question as well. I would love to know, because again, in the For All Things Digital community, funding for us means grants. It means money we don't have to pay back, non-dilutive funding, right? But I think that there are other areas that people can build, have funding for their business. In fact, I've been trying to share a little bit more with my community that typically only 20% of your business funding is going to come from grants, right? It's such a small percentage. We cannot unfortunately, build our businesses off of grant funding alone. Yes, there are people who have done that in our community. However, they're an anomaly. Can you talk to us about different products at Bank of America that we could utilize for funding? I've shared a little bit of my story with my community and on different platforms about how I was going through a really big financial crisis, and I just didn't know what to do. I did work with someone, a financial advisor per se, who helped me, and I just want to know what different products at Bank of America that you all have, because when I worked with this person, I was able to get $40,000 from Bank of America, right? So like that really, really helped me a lot, and is actually a part of my success today. So I would just love, for us to learn about those.
Yeah, thanks for that question too. And congratulations, because trust me, I know how hard it is. I'm a former small business owner as well. And my husband, actually, I should have shared this at the beginning, but my husband is an immigrant. He comes from Brazil, and he came here 25 years ago with nothing but a backpack and a dream. And I didn't know him 25 years ago, but I've known him for about 7 years or so. And before we were married, I would see him struggle with cash flow to run 5 businesses and to really navigate banking. Today, he has 5 small businesses and employs something like 20 or 25 immigrants, mostly from South American countries. But it's just a testament to how difficult it is to access capital. So $40,000 is huge. We have a number of programs at Bank of America. I'm going to talk through a couple of the options that may surprise you, and they're called unsecured lines and unsecured loans. So an unsecured line of credit goes up to $250,000. And when we say unsecured, that means that you as a business owner are not putting up any collateral. You're not giving us a piece of equipment. We're not taking a lien on your home. We're just really looking at your personal credit score, your character, how you've paid your bills. And we're looking to approve you up to $250,000 for a line of credit that you can tap into when you have a seasonality issue. If your business is really busy in the summertime, but it's kind of is a little bit sluggish in the winter, maybe you tap into that line of credit in the winter, and then when things pick up again in the spring, you pay it back. Getting $250,000 is difficult. I would say the average approval is probably more like $60,000 or $75,000, but that can make a tremendous impact on a small business. So again, you always want to maintain your personal credit rating. Even though our business loans will never appear on your personal credit report, we still look at your personal credit rating to approve your loan. The only time you would ever report it is if you go into arrears 90 days plus or more. So again, if you have a $40,000 line of credit, it will only show on your business credit report unless you fail to make 3 or more payments in a row, then it would be reported negatively to your personal credit rating. Okay. So for a short-term need or a seasonal need, a line of credit is the way to go. But let's say that you just leased this beautiful space and it used to be a Burger King and you need to turn it into to a digital marketing office. So you need office space. And the landlord says you can do whatever you want. You can actually come to Bank of America for an unsecured business loan, unsecured, no collateral, up to $100,000, even though you don't own the building, you just rent the space. We call those leasehold improvements or tenant improvements. Or maybe you just need that $40,000 for working capital. That $40,000 is going to help you purchase supplies or inventory. Maybe it allows you to hire 1 or 2 extra people to help out, or you can buy software, computers, whatever. Of course, you have to make payments once a month on a business term loan. But again, we're not taking a lien position on your home or any life insurance or anything that a lot of times small business owners are afraid of. So those are 2 really, really nice products, but you're going to be surprised when I tell you my favorite product. And this is not only at Bank of America, across the banking industry. I think one of the best tools for every small business owner is actually a small business credit card. Now, most people identify or think of credit cards as getting into debt and they're dangerous, etc. The way that we look at a credit card is it's a temporary vehicle to help you, in most cases, earn cash back, build a track record and a business credit rating, and improve your cash flow. So for example, if you're buying supplies every single month, whether they're at Home Depot or, from some kind of supply warehouse, that's probably your biggest expense. Why not put all of those expenditures on a small business credit card and then pay it in full at the end of the month? At the end of the month, you're going to either accumulate travel points so you can take your family or on vacation or maybe go to a trade show, or they're going to be equivalent in most cases for cash back. And believe it or not, we actually have a customer at Bank of America, I love telling this story, who put his child through 4 years of education at Providence College by using his Bank of America credit card for all of his expenses. So we're not talking like $3,000 or $4,000 a month. We're talking big money, like $50,000, $60,000 a month. Why? Because that person was getting 2.62% back every time he spent $1 on his card. So that's just one of the perks about using a credit card. But I'm a big advocate of building credit and using it sort of like with that mindset that you're going to pay it off at the end of the month, so you're not accruing any finance charges. That is the if you don't take anything away from tonight, I hope that that's the one thing that you kind of cling to, is try not to think negatively about using credit cards. The last thing you want to do is charge what you can't afford. And then when you look at the interest rates on your statements right now, they're probably north of like 20%. So it's never a good idea to not pay your credit card in full. So I hope that is helpful. So we talked about a line of credit, a term loan, and then we talked about small business credit cards. So those are the 3 tools that come to mind. Was there another product or tool that you were thinking about, Buki,
Yeah, I mean,
at Bank of America?
yeah, I mean, no, you've definitely covered them all. I have two more questions, one in the chat. One is
Okay.
addressing crowdfunding. Rachel, she says, I need ideas on how to crowdfund in 2024. I'm happy she put
Okay.
2024 because I know it's a different year. She says she read on it and she's interested, but just doesn't know how to approach it.
Okay. So I would say Kiva is your best option. Scan the QR code. Let's set up a one-on-one. Also, we could go back to that access to capital directory. We could actually select crowdfunding. And the other thing that I recommend is Google searching SCORE, SCORE, in your town or city. So if you live in Dallas, you're going to put in Google SCORE Dallas. It's going to open up a website through the SBA, the Small Business Administration. And SCORE has this amazing program where they will match you with a former CEO, CFO, former C-level executive, most of whom are retired, but some are active, and they will walk you through crowdfunding, venture capital, angel investor options. They'll help you with a business plan. They will shoot holes probably in your pitch. Make sure that it's a really, really strong, convincing, compelling argument, and they'll help you go to market. So that's probably something I should have brought up, half hour ago or so, but a tremendous resource when you think about crowdfunding in addition to Kiva. Does that help?
Yes, that definitely does. Thank you.
All right.
Her question, she says, do we need to open a Bank of America checking account to apply for or to be considered for these loans that you just discussed?
I love that question. That's one of my favorite questions, because the beauty of everything that I'm talking through, while I'm here representing Bank of America, we're here to support the entire community. Meaning, if you don't have a relationship with us, you are still eligible for all of the programs, all of the resources that I talked through today. So, of course, we love your business, but what's more important is that we're pointing you in the right direction to gain education, awareness, find out what grants you're eligible for, what crowdfunding looks like, and really just to provide you with the resources that you need so that we can change that narrative that we started talking about at the beginning of this call. We want more women, more people of color. We want, diverse areas to have more access to capital so we can bridge that gap across the entire country and put more capital in your pockets.
Amen. Amen. This is the reason why
That is right.
So I love working with Nancy, and I'm so happy that, again, just keep saying thank you, because after all things digital, we share as many resources as possible. We have relationships with different organizations, different financial institutions. Our entire goal is to make sure that you're taken care of and your business has everything that you need. This is not a marketing. And I think sometimes people are like, it's marketing because I'm a marketer, right? And I think people are like, they're like, oh, this is just marketing. I'm like, no, this is really for you. Really want to see an impact in your lives. I am going to literally have a dance party if every single one of you all win a grant or get funding. Like that.
Me
is
too.
Right. So we just also want to reiterate that as well. I guess we're almost done, so we'll take a couple more questions. But I have another question around building the 5 C's of, is it communication or credit? You talked to me about that. I would love to hear people to hear more about that as well.
I did. That's so funny that you said the 5 C's, because I mentioned earlier when I was, bragging about how old I am. My goodness, there used to be 5 C's of credit 30 years ago. Now there are 6. And I actually have like an entire presentation on the 6 C's of credit, what that means, what banks look at. Of course, we always start with capacity. Capacity means, ladies, that you need to show on a tax return $1.25 for every dollar of debt that you have. Now, the next question usually that I get is, what does the bank look at as debt? So when we think about business debt, it's only what we can see on a credit report. So only business loans, business leases, business mortgages. The utility bills that you have, those are not in play. A relationship or a debt that you have with your local supplier, not in play. So it's really just debt on a credit report and then your net income on your tax return that we use to see, does your business show $1.25 in net income for every dollar of expenses? So that's capacity. We also think about collateral. So with most loans, you always need collateral in order to secure an approval. So collateral means insurance. Collateral could mean accounts receivable. So if you have invoices of $200,000, the bank will say, okay, we're going to take 80% value of those 200,000 invoices. So that's 160,000. And we're going to give you a loan equivalent to your collateral position of 160,000. Or if you don't have accounts receivable, you might have a piece of a piece of equipment, depending upon your business, or some kind of a machine or some asset. The only exclusions are those two loans that I talked about 5 minutes ago, where we do have those unsecured products. But collateral is really, really important when you think about the 6 C's of communication. We also have character, and I'll keep this one short because we talked about credit reports a lot, but we want to make sure that you're paying your bills as agreed. Typically, a bank will look for a credit score of 660 or better. There are some exceptions. We're also an SBA preferred lender, Small Business Administration preferred lender. So what that means is if you supply a full package of financials to me, call it tomorrow's Wednesday. Within 1 week, we will have a loan decision for you, an approval or a not now, decline. And whether it's SBA or conventional, you will have the interest rate, the terms, all the conditions. We won't be able to fund you on that day. It will take 30 or 45 more days, but we at least communicate and give you peace of mind that we all search for as business owners within 1 week. So credit is really important. Until you break that $20 million revenue mark, any bank is always going to look at your personal credit rating. The last C, and I know we haven't gone through all 6, but I'm trying to touch upon the most important ones in the interest of time. The 6th C is communication, and that's now my favorite one. Why? Because I've learned over the years with credit that numbers don't always tell your story. So we love looking at credit scores. We love looking at your profit and loss statement, your tax returns, your projections. But until you actually sit down with your banker and you tell that person, hey, this is a new business, but I had 2 businesses in the past that were very successful. Or unfortunately, I had a child who was very ill and I couldn't work for a year. My husband and I were at the hospital for a year. So that's why my credit looks the way it does. When you have extenuating circumstances, we have to understand that. We want to understand what happened. We can't just look at a credit report and understand your journey. So communication just means being vulnerable, sharing your story, the good and the bad, with your loan advisor so that we can create the proper narrative and share that with the approval officer. So notice I didn't say underwriter. At Bank of America, we have approval officers. So I encourage you, whether it's Bank of America or another bank, sit down with a loan advisor and just, be candid, be vulnerable, and share your story. Hope that helps.
That is extremely powerful information. Again, I think sometimes, especially in our communities that have been underserved, that have where we're thinking about racism and all these different isms that, disproportionately disadvantage us, those narratives are really important. And, I never spoke to anyone who talked to me about that communication piece and being able to go to your bank and just tell them, give them context, right?
Yes.
So, really thank you for that. And, I hope that resonated with someone here, that you feel empowered to go in and have those, conversations. And of course, we are here as a resource to help you craft that and have those conversations properly. because these organizations are here to help you, right? So thank you so much again. First time someone said this for sure, this is my first time hearing communication. It was my first time too.
Yes.
My first time. And no one has ever said, hey, you should go talk to your bank. And that's actually what helped me get my first $100,000 in funding, which is having real conversations and telling, Bank of America, like, this is what I'm going through. This is what's going on. Like, giving them constant. They were like, oh, okay, we can't see that on your application. There's no real place to put that. So you have to follow up and have that conversation, and that it's encouraged, that is supported, and you should absolutely take advantage of that. Nancy, we thank you so much for your time with us today. And for being here with us. Thank you everyone who stayed on the entire call. Again, all of the resources that we shared today will be sent to you this week via email. The recording will also be shared with everyone who registered. If you have any further questions, Nancy's information is here for you to book a one-on-one. And again, we really, really thank you. If anybody has any last minute thoughts, if they learned anything today, you're welcome to share that now before we close out.
I had a quick question about if you need to get a bigger space. And first of all, I just want to make sure before I forget, I thank you both so much for everything that you just shared with us. This is mind blowing and just so opening for me. But my question was, I wanted to know if you are does it matter what neighborhood you're in? Because I find that because I'm a Black owned business, but I'm not in a Black, particularly neighborhood in California, sometimes when I apply for certain grants or programs that they say they're having these grant contests or certain programs, you have to be in a certain neighborhood that serves a certain community. Are some of those things relevant, as well as when you talked about getting a bigger space? What type of loan was that called again, if you wanted to get a bigger space for your business location?
Absolutely. So first off, you're welcome. It's been a sincere pleasure to be here today. This is my passion in life. So thank you for the opportunity. Secondly, some of the grants that you're going to find in the Access to Capital directory are restricted to certain neighborhoods. There's no question. That's all over the country. There are certain tax credits that banks and the government are always looking for in low to moderate income neighborhoods, but it doesn't mean that you still don't qualify for a grant regardless of your zip code. So you and I can search together, or you can email me and let me know where you are, and I can do some digging for you. I'm happy to do that for you and for anyone else on this call today. And then the third question, the type of loan that I referenced is called either leasehold, one word, leasehold improvements, or a loan for tenant improvements. And I always bring it up because prior to, getting involved in credit 30 years ago, I would have never known that a business owner who's just renting space could ever get a loan through a big bank. I thought you had to own the space, and a lot of clients believe that as well. You need a working capital loan. You would put up walls and buy furniture, pay a contractor. So you definitely want a loan and not a line of credit. A line of credit is really intended for someone who has a short-term cash flow gap, meaning maybe they're billing their customers, and because of the season, customers are very slow to pay, or the economy's tough. And even though terms are 30 days, they're really not getting paid for 60. You might need a line of credit so you can pay your own bills. And then when your collections come in, you pay the line of credit. A fixed rate loan kind of works like a car loan, where if you're approved for $40,000, we disperse the $40,000 to you. So it sits in your checking account, and you have a payment due once a month at the same time at a fixed interest rate based on today's interest rates. And we didn't really talk about rates. A lot of people have this misconception that interest rates are really high right now. And I can remember back in 1980 when prime rate was 21%. 21%. Today, it's only 8.25%. rates in the commercial space, if you came to us for a loan, we're doing mortgages in like the 6% fixed rate, 25-year space. Some of our loans are tied to prime rate, some of them are not. So the interest rate is tied to the use of funds, your credit score, the intended use of the funds, and really the dollar amount of how much you want to borrow. But I can say with conviction, I can't speak about other banks, but I know at Bank of America, we honestly have the best interest rates on the street. And then we also have sort of like an affinity program, if you will, where based on how much you keep on deposit with us, you could qualify for an interest rate discount as high as a half a point. So if the rate for me was 7%, but you as a customer have X amount of dollars with us, the rate for you might be 6.5%, and that never changes. It's fixed for the life of the loan. So I hope that addresses the question about growing your space and, you know, applying for a loan to do those leasehold improvements.
Yes, thank you so
Good,
much.
and good luck. I hope I hear from you, but if I don't, I definitely wish you all the success in the world.
You definitely
With your
will hear
space.
from me for sure.
Fantastic. Thank you. I look forward
Thank
to
you.
it. You're
Thanks.
welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
you. Thank you so much, Nancy. We are going to end it here, you all. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. You will have both of our contacts. I will be following up with you as well. Again, you will get this recording. So if there's anything that you missed, you will get it in your inbox in the coming days. Thank you so much for coming, you all. Have a good night.
Thank you for having me. Bye, ladies. Take care, everyone.
You too. Thank you. Thank you both.
Bye.
You're welcome.
You can catch a break in a pretty brown space. You can keep your head, make a better way.